Coming up on Legislative Review. Making ferry commutes more accessible and affordable. Plus, a proposal to tax liquor licenses and permits is brewing in the House. All that coming up on Legislative Review. Welcome and thanks for watching Legislative Review. I'm Angela Nosco.
And gross substitute House Bill 1923, increasing the availability of passenger-only ferries.
In the Senate, a bill that could make ferry travel a lot more accessible was the subject of a Senate Transportation Committee hearing late Monday. House Bill 1923, also known as the Mosquito Fleet Act, passed in the House earlier this month with overwhelming support. It aims to expand the availability of passenger-only ferry service in Washington. Currently, passenger-only ferry districts are limited to certain public transportation benefit areas, or PTBAs, like Kitsap Transit. If passed, those who govern transit agencies, counties, and ports around Puget Sound and Grays Harbor will have more authority to create their own ferry districts, meaning more options for people to travel between our coastal cities and islands by ferry. These ferry districts would be able to raise funds in several ways. They can collect taxes, like a small sales tax, impose tolls for passengers or packages, and even charge fees for parking. Democratic Representative Greg Nance of Kitsap County sponsored the bill.
We're entering year 6 of diminished service from Washington state ferries. And that has posed really large challenges for many folks across our region. We haven't had passenger-only ferry access because of statutory limitations. And that's what House Bill 1923 is all about. We believe that every community across Puget Sound deserves reliable ferry access, and this legislation can help us take that step even faster.
Supporters say it will open up better investment in ferry infrastructure, which could lead to more ferries, more frequent service, and potentially new routes that are badly needed in some areas. And empower small communities and their local economies, as well as bolster disaster response in hard-to-reach areas. Speaking in support of the bill, Peter Phillips, who's currently working with the City of Des Moines and Vashon Island on establishing passenger-only ferry routes all the way to downtown Seattle.
The Mosquito Fleet Act will expand marine transit options for smaller communities, which will increase their mobility and resiliency, enhance their economic vitality, social connection, and quality of life, specifically for the smaller, rural, and underserved communities around the state that are not beneficiaries of Washington state ferries.
No one testified to oppose the bill, which also received support from multiple port agencies, like those of Bainbridge Island, San Juan County, Everett, and Whidbey Island. Additionally, if enacted, districts will have to come up with an investment plan to ensure service meets the needs of the communities they serve. That means the public will have a voice in how these projects are shaped. The bill will require local voters to approve any new taxes to fund the ferry services. If passed, House Bill 1923 will take effect in July under an emergency clause. Whether you're a business owner, a regular shopper, or just someone who enjoys a drink at your favorite bar, there's a new bill brewing in the House that could affect your spirits. Discussed at a public hearing Monday by the Appropriations Committee, House Bill 2035, which aims to raise the cost for almost all liquor-related licenses, permits, and endorsements across the state by 50%. From the small mom-and-pop tavern to the larger retail distributors, nearly every business that deals with alcohol could face higher fees to operate should the bill pass. Under current law, liquor licenses and permits can range anywhere from $5 to $2,500, depending on the type of alcohol being sold, where it's sold, and the size of the operation. If enacted, a business paying $100 for a license would then be required to pay $150. During the public hearing, the bill's prime sponsor, Democratic Representative Deborah Lekanoff, shared why she thinks it's necessary.
During this hard times that we're facing during a budget crisis, every little bit of funding that we can provide to help our general fund that saves lives, helps our children, helps our elders, addresses those important values that we as Washingtonians are going to see deeply be impacted. I thought this bill was timely that we brought it forward. Also, Mr. Chairman, considering that it's been since 1997 since we've seen a substantial increase across the board, this little bit of giving, Mr. Chairman, just seems to be the right time.
Supporters say it's a discrete amount of increase. However, not everyone wants a sip of that. Critics argue that this bill could place undue financial strain on small businesses, particularly in Washington's hospitality sector. Restaurants and bars that claim they're still reeling from the deficit brought by COVID say it would be even more difficult to stay afloat if fees were to increase. They also say that the extra cost will be passed on to consumers, meaning customers might have to pay higher prices whether having drinks in restaurants or bars or hitting store shelves. Speaking in opposition, Brad Tower of the Washington Liquor Store Association.
And so long as we want to continue to call that a fee, I find it difficult to justify an increase in an annual license fee for us to be allowed to collect that fee and remit it to the state. I've often used the example in the policy committee of one of our stores selling a $29 half-gallon bottle of Stolies. We get $1.06 in gross profit off of that and remit nearly $11 to the state.
During the hearing, no one testified in favor of the bill, which was also opposed by the Washington Distillers Guild, Washington Retail Association, and the Washington Beer and Wine Distributors Association.
A 50% hike on our licenses, endorsements as manufacturers, holding liquor, retailing liquor would be devastating and would cost us jobs.
We will see increased licenses and permits in every location for every operation that retailers do, including spirit retailers, stores, and specialty shops. Fees are supposed to cover services that are rendered by the regulatory agency. They are not supposed to be general taxation.
If enacted, the bill will take effect 90 days after session adjourns. And that's a wrap for this episode of Legislative Review. Join us nightly at 8 and 11 to keep up with what's happening in the legislature.